It's Cardboard Time, episode number 134, and I'm your host, Arwen Kathke. On today's episode, I have a review of the Tea Garden Puerh expansion and an interview with Liz Davidson. So I'm back from Minneapolis. I am looking to hopefully have a video coming out soon that gives you a rundown of our trip out that way, but we did have a lot of fun. All in all, we visited 2 game stores, 2 board game publishers, had a surprise party with a lot of friends for Allie's birthday. In between there, got to see an improv show. It was a very, very busy weekend, but a very, very productive one as well. So a huge thanks to Leader Games and Chip Theory Games for hosting us while we were out there on our visit. As you'll hear later in the episode, Leader does have a couple of new games that they just announced. And looking at both of them, I'm very excited for their direction moving forward. All sorts of fun things happening at Chip Theory as well. I believe they currently have a game found going on for their new 20 Strong expansions in conjunction with Awakened Realms. So yeah, all in all, good stuff. And the game stores that we visited were wonderful as well. Tower and Games by James. So to take a look at the Shelf of Aspiration, it is at 130. It is up by 2. Made a purchase while I was out in Minneapolis because I couldn't just go to a Tower Games grand opening and not buy something. I did purchase in front of the elevators. This is a Sashi and Sashi game that I've really been looking forward to for quite a while. And I've heard a lot of fantastic things, but haven't been able to get my hands on it or play it. So looking forward to checking this one out. One came in, that was Tournament Arc. That was through crowdfunding. I have played a game of this with Allie, but it was in prototype form. That was way back at PAX in like 2023, I think. So glad to see it finally on shelves and getting to backers as well. And then for a review copy, I got the new Too Many Bones expansion, which I thought they weren't going to do any more of, but fortunately this does fit in the giant trove chest that they have for it. This is Trover. He is a little kobold, and looking forward to getting to play with that as well. It'll be good to get Too Many Bones back to the table. I haven't had it on the table in quite a while. Most of the time, if I want a game in that kind of style, I'm usually looking to play The Elder Scrolls, also by Chip Theory. So I did get to play, some games over the weekend. The only thing that was really new to the table that was new out of my collection was Tea Garden with the Puerh expansion, which we will be talking about now. So the Tea Garden Puerh expansion expands the player count from 1 to 4. It was previously at 2 to 4. It plays in 90 to 120 minutes. The designer is Tomas Holek, and the artist is Barbara Zikova. I'm hoping that I pronounced that correctly. And this is published in the US by Capstone Games, and Albi is the edition that I have because I do have a early edition of it. I believe that this is a Gen Con release, although it could be Essen, so I'm not quite sure about that. I can't quite remember. But yeah, so that is by Capstone. And the Puerh expansion enhances the game with a Court of Nobles, enriching your options with 2 main actions, bringing the total to 7, and the special Imperial Decrees that bring even more complexity to the game and expand your strategic choices. As a first new action, you can visit the court, for which you'll use the new Courtier meeples. The Halls of the Court not only bring immediate bonuses, but also points at the end of the round if you do hold the majority in each one. The second new action is the Puerh Market, featuring pieces that can be linked together to earn bonuses, not only from newly added pieces, but from previous ones. Careful planning is therefore much desirable. In addition, completed Puerhs also help to earn points at the end of the game. It is necessary to be prepared for the fact that the complexity of the tea garden increases quite significantly with this expansion, and the time required to play the game is also a bit longer than without it. The Puerh expansion also contains components for solo play. So thanks to Capstone for the advance review copy and allowing me to check this one out. If you want to hear my original review on Tea Garden and you want to know my thoughts on the base game, you can check out episode 116 of the podcast. I do have that up there. I did very much enjoy the base game, and I was hoping that we were going to get to see a bit more of it, so this expansion makes me happy. Puerh adds 4 things to the mix. The first is Imperial Decrees, which are essentially shared goals that will help you unlock more pieces to use in the court. The court is an additional action that you can take that gets you an immediate bonus as well as points if you have the majority there. The Puerh Market is a place that you can either earn or purchase wedges that, when linked together, can provide some very helpful bonuses and endgame scoring. And then finally, a solo mode that wasn't in the original game. So, first to start off with, Imperial Decrees are very straightforward. They are public goals that reward the first player to achieve them with the most bonus points and a smaller amount to players achieving them after that. They also unlock additional courtier meeples in order to use the court action more times in a round. I did like this mechanic overall because it gave me another set of goals that I could work towards early. While I was looking to build my strategy up, I could take a look at those and say, which one of these am I going to focus on? What do I want to be my secondary goal? Do these synergize well? And I did really like that. I do like endgame goals, to get me some extra points and to give me something to focus on. So that was a really cool thing. Let's discuss the court next, and the court is a pretty helpful way of getting one-time bonuses and a pretty easy way to earn basic Puerh pieces. That said, I still don't know if this one's my favorite mechanic to add on, as I don't think that the game really needs that additional area control element. You do get that one-time bonus, but, adding that additional area control is just kind of like, it's there. It's fine. I did use the court quite a bit, but that was mostly when there were Puerh tiles to be had, and it was to seek out those additional pieces. At 2 players, most of the time, I found that we were trying to keep out of each other's way, which essentially made the whole thing moot points-wise from a area control standpoint. I do think that this is a much more interesting mechanic at higher player counts when players are kind of interfering with each other, looking at trying to get the same things. That's where I see a little bit more of a player interaction piece there. The other thing that I've noticed, and a shout out to Amanda Panda for reminding me on Blue Sky that I did want to say this, was that the caravan action was used much less frequently with this added in. I found that in one of my games, I didn't use it at all. And normally I rely on Caravan quite a bit to get Emperor tokens and the like. So I thought that was another thing that I did notice. This did add a bit more player interaction to the game, which was something I thought might be missing for some players in the base game. It was not something that I missed at all. But for those who were looking for more player interaction, this does add a little piece of that through the area control mechanic. The next thing I want to talk about is the Puerh Market, which I think was the more fun of the 2 mechanic additions and the more fun action to take. In the market, you can either use an action and purchase those pieces, or you can get them through rewards and other actions like building a tea garden in a specific region, completing caravan cards, taking actions at the court, etc. 3 of the Puerh wedges will make up a full circular Puerh cake, and the first wedge that you get will just simply give you a bonus. The second wedge, however, gives you the bonus that's printed on there, plus the bonus of whatever you connect it with. And then if you add the third, not only do you get all three bonuses by completing the cake, but also you get to score whatever's in the middle part of the form cake at the end of the game. So I really, really like this mechanic. I thought it was very interesting. You could really get some good stuff by forming your cakes very well. So I found myself gravitating when I added this in, trying to put together as many cakes as I could, and really did get some, interesting bonuses for doing so. One of the cakes that I had made got me like 5 Emperor tokens, which is huge to be able to do that. And getting multiple Emperor tokens on one action is pretty cool for those who have played this game. And then finally, I really couldn't talk about the solo without talking about the 2 new actions first. The solo bot is going to interfere in whatever you're trying to do. It's going to take cards out of the market. It's going to take away teacup tiles, caravan cards. You can customize it to the difficulty that you want to by adding in some more advanced cards instead of the basic cards. And the bot is going to kind of tailor its play style a little bit and what it's going to focus on throughout the game based on the cards that it's going to add to its deck. So I did really like how the solo bot was kind of evolving over time, and you could see it trying to focus on a certain thing as opposed to another area of the board. It is a relatively straightforward bot, in my opinion, once you get to know the symbology. The one card tells you what the bot is going to do on its card face. The back of the next card is going to tell you all the bot preferences and then any modifiers to its actions. Again, I do think that this works quite well. I think that it's a very good bot. But you'll need the instruction book at your side for the first play. This is not something that you're going to learn very easily from a symbology standpoint. I do feel like now I could pretty much pick it up and go without any trouble, but there was an initial learning curve to it. So if you're willing to sit and invest the time, I do think that it's a very good bot, but you're going to do some learning. The downtime from turn to turn is pretty minimal to execute the bot's actions, which I like. It keeps me focused on the game, which is exactly what I want. And you'll hear later in this episode, it's exactly what Liz Davidson wants. I think the final thing that I need to say about the bot is that I played it not only with the expansion, but also without. And most of the actions without the expansion content wound up being substituted with just straight up points, which works. It's fine, but I feel like it's lacking a little bit since there's nothing that you can really do to interfere with the bot scoring those points. There's no way that you can kind of prepare for it or see what's coming up. It's just they straight up get points and you can't do anything about it. Really having the full slate of actions that the bot is going to take, it gives you greater agency. It does feel a little bit better, at least to me anyways, than just having the bot take straight up points. I thought that the bot, doing some sort of action, kind of taking up space, interfering, and then you interfering back with the bot's choices by getting somewhere first or taking something first was a way better experience. So to me, I feel like you really need to add the expansion content in when you're playing with the bot to have the best experience with it. From a vision and accessibility standpoint, there were no issues for me. There were none introduced in the expansion content whatsoever. So I thought that they did a very good job with that. For my final thoughts, overall, I like really what Puerh added. I think that the Imperial decrees were welcome from a strategic standpoint. The Puerh market was really fun. It could be really beneficial if you built everything up properly. The court was fine. I think it's going to speak to you more if you like more interaction in your game. If you like that area control piece, this is probably going to speak to you a little bit better. than it did for me. To me, I could very much take or leave it. It was fine. Finally, I feel like the solo really does need the expansion content. You really need that full agency over what's going on in the game, even though you are technically able to play without it. So, if you have wanted to play this game solo, if you feel like it would get more to your table, if it had a solo mode, I would definitely recommend picking this up. If you wanted a bit more meat to the game, you wanted to see more there, or maybe wanted a little bit more player interaction in the game, I'd also recommend picking it up. I think the people that really like the complexity of the original don't want to expand on it, think that it's good as is. I don't know as though this will be a must-have for you unless you're looking to play it solo. For me, it's definitely sticking around. I will be playing with it more, especially for those Puerh tiles. Those are really cool, a really fun mechanic. That was Tea Garden Puerh. So stay tuned, because coming up next, I have an interview with Liz Davidson. On today's interview segment, I have a very overdue conversation with my good friend Liz Davidson. In addition to running the 2024 Golden Geek Best Podcast Award-winning Beyond Solitaire, Liz is also the creative director of Leader Games and the designer of the upcoming Night Witches and Queen of Spies. In her 2 seconds of free time, Liz is also a solo and historical game enthusiast and fellow cheese queen. Liz, welcome to Cardboard Time.
Hey, I'm super happy to finally be on here.
With your cheese-scented microphone, by the way.
Yeah, it just makes everything better. You brought me a wonderful gift that I can't wait to inflict on the entire office.
So for those who are not here, which is pretty much all of you, I brought Liz a sampling of Marchant Manor cheese, which is a local Cleveland cheese shop. And it is the stankiest cheese. I could smell it in my backpack all the way, like throughout the airport and everything.
I'm just amazed you made it through TSA with that, to be
They
very
never
honest.
stopped me.
Maybe everybody they've had enough like feet smells to go through. They assume it's just that.
They just assume, oh yeah, it's either feet or cheese. It's one of the two, and we don't feel like distinguishing because we don't feel like asking this 6'5" woman a question. So we're just not going to do that.
Yeah, let it go. Let it go.
So can you tell everyone a little bit about your history and how you got into the hobby?
Yeah, I feel like all good stories, right? It's basically just one accident after another. Mm-hmm. So I played a lot of board and video games as a kid. And actually, my first exposure to GMT games in high school. But I didn't really think about board games a lot through kind of the end of high school and throughout college because I was just busy being a student. And then in grad school, I just found the right people. So in my program, I was getting a degree in ancient Christianity, but apparently religious studies nerds also like board games, and I'm no different. So I got invited to, a couple of my friends had a baby. And so in order to hang out with them, we would go hang out, we'd put the baby to bed, and then we'd play Ticket to Ride and Settlers of Catan. At the same time, my friend Dan, who came into the program with me a year after me, was a huge Magic the Gathering fan, and he taught me how to play. And so we played a bunch of kitchen table Magic, and we were having so much fun. And then I realized how expensive that could really be. So I decided to spend less money. I ended up picking up the Lord of the Rings living card game. And then when I realized I could play that by myself, I ruined my life by becoming a solo board gamer. But like during all this stuff, I ended up starting a channel because the thing about solo board gamers is they like to talk online about their play. So they play, but then they have to talk to someone. So I occasionally posted pictures on Instagram of like games I was playing, and I realized that people like really seem to like those and want to talk to me about them. And I realized, oh, there's an entire online community of people who do this. I want to hang out. And so then I started a blog, and it turned into a channel. By 2020, I had a podcast. And then my good friend David Thompson convinced me to co-design Night Witches with him. And then it turned out that I really liked designing games. And then I lucked into this job as a solo game designer at Leader. And then, yeah, less than 2 years into the job, I'm now the creative director.
It's wild to see how you've progressed throughout the years, because I think we met kind of 2021 timeframe, 2022.
Yeah.
And it's just been like progressively, Yeah, I'm going to move up to Minnesota and I'm just going to work for Leader. After your teaching job, teaching Latin
Yep.
down in Georgia, you just move up here and it's, yep, I'm going to move and just work for Leader. That's what I'm going to do. And I find that incredibly amazing to take that chance. And like, you've killed it and made some amazing decisions and really helped out with providing amazing solo modes for Leader games and that. The other thing that I find really interesting is your background is actually in ancient Christianity where you have a PhD. It's wild. Wild. So you make that jump from having ancient Christianity PhD to now you're the creative director of Leader games.
Yes. You know what? It makes sense if you're me, I guess. It's just felt like one natural step after another. But if you actually look at it on paper, it looks crazy. But actually, one of the things I think is the best about board gaming still is that because we're still professionalizing as an industry, it means that there is a chance for people who are just really interested and really engaged to get involved regardless of their background. So we're working in a field where people who are hired by that publisher, but not everybody finished college.
Yeah.
And they're here because they're talented. And I wouldn't say it's meritocratic entirely because nothing ever can be.
Right.
But there's a real chance to make it in this industry still just by being a talented person who put themselves out there. And I like that. So while I also think it's cool that there are more game design programs and degrees and things that you can go for, I hope this stays in industry for a long time where you can get into it because you love it and because you threw yourself into it.
Yeah, and that seems to be you get to a certain point by having a degree. And then once you get into the industry, you meet people, you start talking with people, you network, which is extremely important in this industry, meeting people and having those relationships. And I think the people that build those and really curate those and build their skills are the ones that really tend to grow and get those opportunities.
Yeah, I think networking is such a weird word because it sounds gross and it sounds transactional, but networking that works isn't that way. I think every good thing that's ever happened to me in this industry has been because I made friends with someone and it was a genuine friendship that just happened to lead to a working relationship later.
Yeah, it's more relationship building than networking.
Yeah.
In a way. So how important has Beyond Solitaire really been to you as a creative and building up that platform?
Extremely important. You know what's really funny is I'm like looking at the calendar. So I started my channel in 2017 and I started the blog in 2016. So we're basically at the decade mark for like stuff coming out from me as Beyond Solitaire. And that is crazy to me.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest life changer for me, though, was the podcast. So everybody did something with themselves in 2020 while we were all in quarantine. And
some of us more than others.
I feel guilty for how much I enjoyed being quarantined because one of the things I did was start that podcast. And I just did what I wanted. I planned 20 episodes because I didn't really know if I could get more than 20 people to talk to me. And that's why all my seasons now are 20 episodes. But I just loved it. And I honestly think that talking to that many people for an hour and like getting to know them has led to so many weird like opportunities, cool meetings down the line, good books read, good ideas had. That podcast is probably the most important life choice I ever made. And I just wanted to talk to people while I was quarantined.
I think that was a lot of us. It was certainly me as well. November of 2020 is when I started Cardboard Time. So it was very important and a way for me to reintroduce myself to the world. But we felt like, even though I was living with my lovely now wife, who is sitting here looking at her phone on her elbow, who is waving. So we were living together, but at the same time, like, you couldn't do anything with anybody else. And it's not that we weren't having fun and enjoying ourselves, but I feel like as board gamers, we tend to value those relationships with other people really highly. And having the ability to go out and have those conversations is, for the time, and looking back at it and reflecting, I think was really important. And I think it got us through some really dark times too.
Yeah, that podcast is also, I think, the first time I was really expressing myself in terms of the kind of media I wanted to make. So the first interview was with Chris Dobbs, I saw him at a Latin convention where I'd taken the kids talking about Roman board games. And I was like, this is so cool. Somebody should do something about this. I like board games. I feel like board game people would enjoy this. But there was nowhere for me to do a guest interview or anything like that. And I just held on this guy's card for a couple of years. And you're sitting around bored. I'd interviewed some people about other kind of pseudo-historical topics for my channel, like leading up to the podcast, including David Thompson, who, of course, then later became my co-designer, my primary co-designer. And I was like, you know what? I'll make this podcast because I think this interview should exist. So why don't I just do it? And so that also set the tone of I'm going to find these other people who are talking about games and history in ways that I want to talk about because nobody else was doing quite what I wanted. So I did it. And I'm really glad.
And that's such an important component, too, because I feel like we come from very similar places when it comes to our philosophy on podcasting. And it's about who you want to talk to, why you want to talk to them, because you find their material, whatever it is, whether they're a designer, artist, whatever, you find that they have an interesting story. And I feel like that makes the most compelling content when you are talking to somebody that you want to and not just, oh, I need to have so-and-so on my show because they're popular and that'll increase my popularity. I feel like that comes naturally as you go and have genuine conversations with some really amazing people. Even if they're not well known, being able to have a genuine, authentic, interesting conversation with somebody is just so engaging to listen to. And I feel like Beyond Solitaire really does that well.
Yeah, I'll interview anybody I think is actually interesting. Actually, one of my favorite interviews from the very first season, I think it's like episode 6, is with Kirby Whitehead, who was just my high school teacher, the one who introduced me to 2 GMT games in his classroom. And he still continued. He's retired now, but he was still working with games in his classroom at the time. Mm-hmm. And it was just a blast to get to have him on and talk about what he was doing, both as his former student, as a teacher at the time, and now that we are just game buddies and I play with him in San Antonio. Like, I was super glad I recorded that interview of what he was up to in that moment in his career. Yeah. Also, I should note, when I got my PhD, he did not care. The proudest he's ever been of me is the first time I showed up in the GMT newsletter email. And then he posted about how proud he was of alums from his class and all the great things we were doing. So now my goal is to just cost him a lot of money having to buy my games.
Yeah, exactly. You don't give that out for free. I'm just saying. So you won the Golden Geek last year.
I did.
Which is amazing. Congratulations again, by the way. How validating was that for you as a podcaster to receive that? Was that like a huge moment for you and super validating, or was it just like a natural progression of, I appreciate this, it's great, but it's just the work that I naturally do? How did you feel about it?
Ooh, so it was extremely validating, but I don't know that it was validating for me as a person. Like, it was the result of multiple years of work of getting people to be aware that I was nominated, to help nominate me, and then to help vote. And so I was really appreciative of all the people who got behind me for that. And if you are one of those people who is doing a podcast and you're getting nominated and you're not getting it, like, it's a few years, like 3 or 4 years for me to actually go from being nominated regularly to winning it. So don't panic, just keep pushing. But what I was really validating for was this. I really felt great because the fact that people were willing to vote for that podcast and I had enough of a following I think I'm a pretty good podcaster, but what's most important is it means that there are people who are hungry for interesting conversations about games. Mm-hmm. There are people who want to know more about historical games in particular. And so I saw that as like a community win in a larger hobby where sometimes war games are seen as more marginal. Mm-hmm. And it is my personal mission to make those games more accessible and like more in the public eye. And so I felt like it was a win for my segment of the hobby as a whole, as opposed to just like for me.
Absolutely. No, that's it. It was so amazing seeing a woman-run podcast get that award in an industry that has traditionally not been the case. And then you put the work into it. And I think that was really special. But yeah, a lot of work goes into that.
Yeah, actually, I think that my board game path so far, sometimes things happen really fast. Like literally 2 years from right now, I was a high school Latin teacher, and I did not think I was ever going to not be that. So life can change very fast. But success is really about years and years of work that maybe result in something. And I think that you see people get something quickly and you think, wow, like that person is really lucky, or they must be like really super special, and look how quickly everything came together for them. But I think the reality is what you're missing probably is years and years of like unnoticed work happening in the background.
Yeah.
Because Beyond Solitaire is going to turn 6 next month. And so that's years of labor. And then before I could do that, I was doing years of YouTubing and getting to know people and figuring out how to interview people. And even with games, I signed Night Witches in 2023. It's up for pre-order now.
Yeah.
And it just takes time.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe the most important thing, maybe in any field, but I think especially in this one, you have to keep going. You have to be determined that I want to make this, so I'm going to do it because I want to do it, because you don't know if or when a larger kind of success is going to come.
And having the love for it is the core. And a lot of people say that too. A lot of people are just like, you have to have the love for it. You have to have the passion for it. But it's really true, because you never know if that's going to show up.
Yeah. Also, what was I going to do? Make money? Not yet.
And I feel like that's one thing that I have privilege of being able to do this outside of money. So I can do the content that I want. You have the privilege of being able to do this outside of money so that you can do the content that you want. And that is one thing to also note, that, hey, you might not be able to make a living off of this, but if it's the thing that you want to put out into the world, it's extremely important to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot about it in terms of, did I enjoy doing it? Did I get to talk to the people I wanted to talk to? One of my like big pride points about Beyond Solitaire is that it's archived at Stanford, like in their library.
Oh, wow.
They have a video game and now increasing into board game collection. They archive stuff that could be of historical interest one day. So I see the interviews that I'm picking and the people that I'm getting on tape as like little snapshots of what we're doing at this moment in board game design history, especially when it comes to education, professional wargaming, historical gaming. Mm-hmm. So the podcast is also really important to me because one day, maybe, somebody will be interested in what we were doing, and those interviews will be there so people can see what was Valko Rinke doing? What were they teaching at the Naval War College? You know, maybe Root will still be a huge game and people want to know about Cole's historical stuff.
I think that's going to be selling for years and years. I don't think we have to worry about that.
But I like to think about also the things that you put in there. The internet is forever, at least until somebody pulls a plug. I won't worry about that. But
as far as we know.
Yes, but as far as like the way we keep records of this time, I don't know. I think all of our videos and interviews and all those things are also interesting because one day we're going to get to look back at them and think about where we were in this year. So what will we feel about this in 10 years? We'll be able to find out.
I hope so. I really hope so. We'll get there, but it's going to be trying. So what do you think makes a good solo game? Like, what qualities do you look for in a solo game? You sit there, you play it, and it's, yeah, this was good, or no, this wasn't a great solo game.
Ooh, okay. So I think that there is some difference between solo modes and then solo games. I typically in my spare time will prefer to play a game that is meant for solo play at this point. I like solo modes and they're not totally ruled out, but I love games that are truly tailored for the solo experience because I think there are some key things there. So if you are really wanting to have a good solo game experience, you need to make sure that it's your turn as much of the time as possible. The two games you mentioned when you were introducing me, co-designs with David Thompson, so Night Witches and Queen of Spies, there is no AI turn in those games. It's always your turn. And we chose that deliberately because we want to play all the time as like the solo gamer. It's always your turn. So I think it should be your turn as much as possible. I'm greedy. I want to play what I want and I want to be the one playing. I don't want to be managing like the other side too much. And then I also think that this is true for all game design, but I think it's especially important for solo game design because there's not another player to make the game balance or work differently for you because there's no human to like counterbalance you. You need to have difficult decisions to make the whole time. So I'm really big on every decision should have some sort of unpleasant cost associated with it. No decision should be too obvious. And also, when you make a decision and it goes bad, you should feel like it's your fault or like you should have done something differently instead of feeling like you just got unlucky.
Yeah.
And so, to me, that is like the ideal gaming experience of feeling that agency in the game. I have a bunch of ugly decisions that I have to make. What am I going to do? Oh my God, I'm going to sit here and sweat about it. And then if things go wrong, I guess I should have played better.
Yeah. Because so many times you look at playing a solo mode specifically, I find that this happens a lot. The two things that you said that I picked up on, one is the fact that you want it to be your turn as much as possible.
Yeah.
And if I have to manage something with a 50-step flowchart, it is not going to be something that I want to play because then I've got to look into the rule book. And it takes you out of the game. It takes you out of that experience that you're looking to have.
Yeah. I'll do it, but I'm also a sicko.
Yeah, we both will at the end of the day. I think the second thing is that agency and feeling like, yeah, I could have played better, as opposed to this happened and it shouldn't have, or this was unfair. Having that ability to look back at it and say, I could have made this decision, I could have made that decision, maybe I should have done this. And having that moment, those are the times that I value, and I find myself wanting to go back as opposed to just being like, okay, yep, I played that. Don't really want to return to it because I don't think that I could do any better. So yeah, I thought it was interesting that you brought those up.
Yeah, I think this also it does apply to design at large. Like, not all the designs I'm working on are solo. And of course, as the creative director here, I'm working on things that are just what my devs want, and I'll worry about solo later. But it's, I think every time I give any sort of critique about game design, it's okay, how do we make the decision space more interesting? Because I want to sit there and think about it. I want to play the game and not have it play me. And every turn should be about like, okay, was my decision space interesting? Is there something that I could have done to make it more interesting? How do I make it easier to make decisions instead of parse rules? And constantly harping on that, I think, does lead to better games.
I agree. I definitely agree. So you made the transition from your teacher job to more of your professional role here at Leader. And I should mention we are here at Leader Games today. I don't think that I mentioned that at the top of the episode, but...
Yeah, you're visiting my house today.
It's a lovely house. We're currently in the studio that is being redesigned, rebuilt, and it looks amazing. So you transitioned roles, and how did that kind of affect your personal work on Beyond Solitaire? Did that have an effect on you at all?
Yeah. The sad thing is that the more you design, the less time you have to do other things. And so my podcast is still running strong because I have like a almost spiritual devotion to that podcast. It is really important to me to do. I feel like it really enriches my life. I will always make time for that until I feel like I'm not making interesting interviews anymore, at which case I will have to stop. But hopefully it's a long way off. But it's a lot harder to play other people's games deeply enough to then have the energy to film them. And so my YouTube output hasn't been what I want because I do so much game work, but it's design. So it's okay. I would really get back to making more videos, but it's okay. Do I turn this into a design channel? Do I just do overviews of stuff I'm playing and not put so much pressure on myself to do really good gameplay? Even though that's something I've done in the past. Tutorials are probably the most work-intensive type of video. And I'm no longer in a position where that is convenient for me. I also just read a lot. So do I want to just talk about other things I'm doing that kind of inform my design? Because I do think that the more you're engaging with other media, the better your game designs get. It's one of those things where I'm not always sure exactly what I want to do. So I know I want to do something, but settling into that job and then now this job, because I'm at a different job at this company now, has really thrown a wrench into my Beyond Solitaire work. And it's only natural. I don't beat myself up about it, but I do spend a lot of time thinking about what to do about it.
Yeah, and I think that's important as a creator. You want to produce good content. You've always been devoted to that.
Yeah.
So with that kind of lens in mind, looking at that, it's like a very tough decision, I would imagine, for you.
Yeah, because I don't want to put out slop. I'd rather quit to do that. So yeah, thinking about what is going to be meaningful for me and therefore for my audience, I think is the important thing. I do try to remind myself that I shouldn't be worried too much about what the audience wants, because my instincts for that have always been good, which is why the channel has done well.
Yeah.
And also, I think that people respond better to something that's meaningful to you than to you stringing yourself out just trying to give somebody what you think they want.
Exactly. It's more genuine, it's more authentic, it's more you, which is what people are tuning in to you to see. And I think it also helps curate the audience that you really want as well.
Because the audience that I do have, my channel isn't like the biggest channel ever. It's, I'd say, like a mid-range YouTube channel. But what I really like is that the people that I regularly interact with, these are people who say hi to me at conventions. They're people who are in my Discord checking in on what's going on.
Yep.
They're people who respond to the little updates I put on my Patreon, which like has a free tier. So if you just want to know what my newsletters say or whatever, you don't actually have to pay me any money. I'm like really bad at asking for money.
I'm glad that you're bad at asking for money, because I'm on that free tier and I should probably be paying you, but it's a great tier. Definitely sign up.
I feel like I'm always really grateful when people want to support me, but I also feel gross asking. And I honestly think that's I'm really glad my career's turned out this way so that I can make money doing board games and devote all my time to doing board games. But I'm not reliant on the generosity of people who are already generous to spend that much time listening to me yammer. So.
Exactly. And I think that would probably change things for you too, by being reliant on that income. And that kind of goes back to that privilege of us being separated from that creative space and being able to go in and just say, hey, this is what I want to do. And if you want to listen, that's great. If you don't, it's not for you.
Yeah. I make exactly enough to pay for my podcast hosting, for StreamYard, and for a couple other subscriptions that really make the podcast run and keep the lights on. And you know what? I'm good with that.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about Night Witches and Queen of Spies? And those are co-designed with David Thompson, I believe you said.
Yeah, I can tell you absolutely. So Night Witches is my first child finally going to pre-order, so I'm hoping that people will actually see that game in late 2026 or early 2027 at the worst. But it is a 1 to 2 player cooperative game in which you are Soviet female pilots bombing Nazis. Because you are the Night Witches of the 588th Night Bomber Regiment from World War II. And it is a game where you are controlling these planes that each represent a pair of women, a pilot and a navigator. And you are flying over a hex map that starts out with a lot of unknowns, but you observe spaces as you fly over. And sometimes it'll just be night and you're good to go. Sometimes you're going to draw a AAA and it's going to shoot at you from the ground, and you also have to reach targets and bomb them. And the game is meant to simulate repetitive sorties throughout a single night. So each mission is a night of flying where you're uncovering more of the map and dealing with things and having to go back and recover and reload your bombs. And it's also meant to just replicate the fact that these women were piloting planes that you don't have any ranged fighting ability. You have to get right over things in order to bomb them.
Ooh.
Because that was what the Night Witches had. They didn't have guns. Right. They didn't have a radio. They just had these, frankly, questionable, in terms of their material, little planes that were used in like flying clubs for training and teaching people how to fly. And they were turned into like harassment bombing machines in order to help the Russian Air Force, the Soviet Air Force during World War II. And for the record, there were also male units of pilots doing the same thing. The kind of narrative of, oh, women just got the crappy planes, that's not quite true. There's actually like a women like fighter plane and day bombing regiment as well. But the Night Witches, I think, the most famous because they were the only unit that stayed all female throughout the entire war. And one of my favorite stories about this is that there was a man who was sent to try to join them, and he quit because he got sent some equipment, and then it was some women's underwear, and his fragile masculinity could not handle the women's underwear.
Of
and
course
so he quit. And then Queen of Spies actually is David's in my second game, and that emerged because my boyfriend bought me a copy of Helen Fry's Women in Intelligence for Christmas one year, and I was reading it, and I kept sending David all these Facebook messages about stuff I thought was really interesting. And it coalesced into a game about basically running a spy ring in World War I Belgium. And in it, you are basically represented by, you're playing Alice. And this is after Alice Dubois, who was an actual spy of the time. It was her code name. And you have a very limited amount of time to send your operatives to different places to try to complete missions. And like, you can choose to put a lot of effort into training. You can just send people in and hope for the best, but you have to be careful because the more things you do, the more alert gets put in the bag. If you draw too much alert, a troop gets put in the bag, and then you're starting to risk your operatives getting arrested. So they can go to jail, which becomes an entire other problem because they get interrogated and they could die in there, or they could give up other operatives while they're there. Because interrogation bad. And so we created some like little storylines using this system that are, one of them is actually about acquiring and training pigeons to go gather intelligence, because I think homing pigeons are really fun. I like pigeons, what can I say? And then there's one about freeing prisoners of war. And there's one where you start with a different loadout of operatives than normal, and you have to recruit people to infiltrate an office building. Cool. And like search stuff. It's one of those systems where I think Night Witches is going to be more like immediately obvious to people who pick it up and play it. But Queen of Spies is worth like playing around and getting used to the rhythm of the game, because a lot of emergent narrative comes from it that I'm really proud of. And David and I really spent a lot of time thinking about how to have a low text game that's basically just a bunch of bag draws, but have it feel like you're really sending people into these dangerous situations. And so the game will respond to a lot of what's happening in ways that really feel like, oh God, like they screwed up at training, or, oh no, like we tried to recruit somebody, but the recruiter got caught instead. And there's 2 men in the game, and all the other cards are women, because we wanted to sort of honor the intelligence work of women that doesn't necessarily get talked about a lot, but there were a lot of them there. But frankly, in playtest, I know that statistically any operative will do as well as another, but God damn it, Gideon was probably one of the things that we said the most, because every time Gideon is in the game, like, Jesus Christ, that guy can't pass anything.
It's the
like,
worst.
I don't get it. Like, how? But, and yet
it just happened.
You just develop these like personalities for these cards that it's just a good mix of art and playing with your buddy.
So these are both historical games.
Yes.
They're both about women in wars that didn't really get the credit that they deserved ever.
Yes.
The Night Witches really, in reading up on their history, like they had to fight for the recognition that they did get, and they still didn't really get their flowers at the end of the day.
That's right. Yeah, in fact, they were told not to brag about it after the war by their government.
Yeah. Even though men got plenty of accolades, it was still, you're women, so just don't talk about this.
Although, this is not all I do. If you're listening to this, you should check GMT's P500, because Paul Wright, a Renaissance scholar that I'm friends with, and I have also been working on a 5-player, basically day-long Here I Stand series game called Foxes and Lions, which is about the Italian Wars. So it's Machiavelli. We're trying to bring his ideas about mercenaries and militia and government types and stuff to life on a board. So that's been a really fun project, and I'm really proud of how it's doing. And our developer, Joe Dewhurst, is newly on the team. He's doing amazing, helping us get the game ready for wider testing. And David and I have some fun plans ahead.
I love it.
We might be doing some Gettysburg research.
So when you have a theme that you want to implement and you feel like is worthy of a game, like what sticks out to you? What makes it worthy? Is it just because it's interesting to you, or do you feel like it's because you can accurately adapt it with themes and mechanics and integrate those? What's your process behind that?
I'm always theme first. I know that is not how everybody operates, but that's what I need to do to be happy. So I will basically read something and think about it a lot and be really interested. I'll message David about it, or maybe somebody else I want to co-design with. I really like to co-design. And if they're interested in it, then we can talk some more. But basically it has to be something that's interesting to me in terms of the history. And then there also has to be some sort of core tension that I think I can capture in a game. The first note about Night Witches in our dev doc is just David taking something I messaged him on Facebook. And it's like, it should feel cold and lonely and like you don't know what you're flying over. And that spirit stayed with the game the whole time. Or like for Queen of Spies, it was, we want you to have a really limited time and resources and then have to do this desperate push to finish your mission while managing just a mess. And so that was what that one's about. And so I think that you have to have the right combination of theme and then like hook that you think you can communicate through game mechanisms. Because you don't want to just talk about a topic that's cool as a game. It has to have some sort of conflict that is gamey enough to make a game out of it.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I used to ask that question a lot, like theme first or mechanics first, and I just got such a wide variety of answers. I thought that might be your approach. I'm like, it's probably theme first at this point.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, of course, of some things for Leader that may or may not come to pass in future years. But that's also very theme first. It's just not quite historical. But Leader's always been a company where you can use a lot of heavy allegory to think about big ideas and then turn them into games. And that is a tradition I hope to continue here.
So let's expand on that a little bit more because we're here right now. So again, you've recently taken on this role as creative director at Leader, and Leader and Berry Giant have decided to take separate paths creatively. How do you see Leader's creative direction going forward for you?
Yeah, 2 months into the job, totally got everything figured out. No problems. Okay. So I think that I've spent a lot of time thinking about what defines a Leader game to me. And then, of course, that's something that has to happen in conversation with Patrick, who is the actual boss of the company. I get some say, but some things that we have talked about a lot are that we want to maintain a sense of whimsy and fun in our games. We want to have some sense of emergent narrative. So one thing that was true before and will remain true is that when you're assessing a game at Leader, you pay attention to how people talk about the game after it was played. So if somebody's saying, yeah, and then I put this power card on and it gave me a modifier so that I could hit the boss for X HP, that's not a Leader game.
Right.
A Leader game needs to be, then I went and I punched that boss in the face, but then he kicked me and I fell to the ground. It's like there's a totally different way of talking about that game.
Yep.
And so that's something that we want to keep for Leader. We want to keep a sense of whimsy, and we want to keep a sense of story. And we want to keep a sense of everything that I pick and am willing to greenlight is trying to capture something. So when I talk about being theme first, I don't think that's necessarily a historical thing. Yeah. So one of our games, I wanted to greenlight it because Alita, one of our in-house designers, is really in love with racing games. And she wanted to do like a downhill soapbox racing game where your steering gets worse as gravity takes you faster down the hill. And so I thought that was a great concept, and like her design is like really trying to capture that feeling. And so to me, it's not just a racing game. It's an attempt to really capture a specific something. And so to me, that makes it fit as a Leader game, if that makes sense. Like I'm looking for that sense of capture and a vibe. And I think that good games and the best games do that.
Yeah, the tonality shift between I'm just looking at this purely from a mechanical standpoint versus I really got sucked into the theme of this.
Yeah.
One example I like to look at is Elder Scrolls from Chip Theory.
Yes.
Because I never talk about that game
I love that game.
In the perspective of I moved this chip over here. It was like, no, I delved in and things were closing in on me and I was hurt. And you have those kind of conversations.
Right.
And those to me are the most engaging and fascinating games out there.
Exactly. Yeah. And you want to be like, oh no, I need to use my spell, but do I have the power to do it? Do I have it's something where you'll talk about it after you play, and you'll talk about it in a way that makes it feel like something real.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's an actual experience that you had with your friends.
Yeah. Or not, or a solo gamer.
Or, yeah, you can sit and play solo, I guess, if you want to, if you're weird.
Rude.
Listen, we both play a lot of solo games. I, literally sat at the table on, I think it was Tuesday before we came out here and played Tea Garden solo twice, so.
Hell yeah.
It's pretty good.
I would love someday to see a solo convention where everybody's in there, like a little cubicle almost, and they just play, and then there's like a break time where somebody like rings a bell, and then everybody has to go eat a snack and talk about what they were playing, and then we send them back.
I love that.
I would do that.
So we've come up with harebrained ideas before, like this, aka Cheese Party.
Yes, but the Cheese Party, that was just a good idea.
So is solo convention where we all have snacks. I'm just saying, we can make these things reality. We just do them.
I think we could. Honestly, you could start by just taking over like a brewery around here.
Yeah.
And just have people agree to do it.
Yeah. I'll fly out for that.
Now I'm thinking,
I'm
that's always
saying,
dangerous.
I'm just saying, I'll fly out for that. We either that or we'll drive because we need to bring Charlie for that.
Yes, Charlie can be everybody's emotional support dog while they're getting wrecked by their solo games.
Yeah, exactly.
Because solo games are supposed to be hard.
They are.
I mean, there's cozy
Inherently
ones, but
difficult. So we've talked a lot about inclusion on the show, and this is a topic that the two of us have talked about extensively. And normally I ask, hey, what does inclusion mean to you? Why is it important? But I wanted to reframe that and ask you in a different manner. So when somebody talks about having like an inclusive event or an inclusive panel, what does that truly mean? Because I know that we've talked about this before.
yeah, I struggle with that one a lot. I can be a real pill about this topic, which I'm assuming is why.
That's
you
why
brought
I'm
this up.
asking the question.
So when I see somebody advertise something as inclusive, a lot of times my hackles go up because I assume that just means that you've assembled one panel of like token people so that you feel better about the other not inclusive things that you're doing. Or like you can just gesture like, look, I'm a good person. I've done like the basic thing. I actually think that my dream in this life is for people to not have to talk about inclusion because the stuff they're doing just is inclusive. My favorite Latin motto, because I'm a big dork, is North Carolina's actually. It's esse quam videri, to be rather than to seem. And I think that I much more value people in terms of what they're actually doing than in terms of what they talk about doing. And so to me, something I'd be excited about would be to just go to a panel about a game topic that's just generically cool and have a diverse panel there that nobody felt a need to comment on because they just did it. A lot of times the inclusion panels just mean that like that's where we put the women and people of color. And I hate that. It makes me feel like I'm on you're trying to make me junior varsity when I'm just regular varsity.
Right.
Right. And I don't want to be too cranky about stuff like this. I don't want to be your favorite female designer or your favorite female podcaster. I want to be your favorite designer or your favorite podcaster, just like flat.
Yep.
And so I really struggle with how I want to talk about my own gender or inclusion in my work because I want to be taken for myself, whatever that includes. And I try to think about that as I'm choosing people to interview for my podcast, or I'm now in a position where I need to think about who I'm publishing and promoting. I don't think there's like a list of, oh, look, I was inclusive. But I do think that if you're actually inclusive, it'll show in the things that you make and the things that you do.
Yeah, it's almost a sense of authenticity, and it's just, yeah, this just feels different as opposed to we shoehorn this in and we got the gay, we got the black person, we got the Asian person.
Yeah. I also hate tack on solo modes for this reason. Don't put a shitty solo mode on a game just to try to make me buy it.
Okay.
And I think that's also true in terms of the people you include. Don't tack people on. Make them an integral part of what you're doing.
Yeah. Actually, Jillian from Brotherwise and I, and shout out to Jillian, we love you. But we've had this conversation where a lot of publishers will just throw in a solo mode and be like, hey, we've got a solo mode. You can play this on your own. And it's not interesting. It's not fun. There's been games where it's actively turned me off from playing a game. And if it's the first experience that I have with it and it's a bad experience, that's not good.
No, you should never, ever go for the quick, easy sale when somebody's just then going to remember they had a bad experience and then not come back.
Yeah. And I don't think every game needs a solo mode.
Now, as a solo enthusiast who loves solo modes, I will say that I'm not even convinced that Foxes and Lions, my own game, needs a solo mode. And if it does, then it's going to be like scenarios or something. I'm not doing bots to replicate a complex negotiation system for 4 city-states and great powers that aren't you.
Again, flowcharts that are 80 points long and
Yeah, that's the devil talking. I'm not going to be doing that.
Okay. Favorite cheese?
Ooh, it's the honey lemon Wednesday. That's why I bring it every year to the cheese part. I will also take any super aged, super sharp cheddar or sheep cheese.
Yeah. See, we're like that. My wife is literally making a face right now. She hates cheddar.
You're wrong, Allie. You're wrong.
I mean, she is. I really like, and the thing that we share, my wife and I, is the 1000 Day Gouda
Oh, yeah, that's
from
good.
Aldi.
Go with an apple slice, just perfect.
Yeah. What's the name of the little crystals that form? I can't remember. Yeah, the little crunchy bits.
No idea, but I'll eat them.
I used to know. Like, I used to have that memorized, and now I don't. But they are so good. What's on your table right now?
Currently nothing, because I just packed up a prototype. But my goal is to, honestly, I'm about to abuse my unlimited PTO and take a couple days off because I really need to play Apocalypse Dragon.
What is
the Mage Knight expansion? There's a good new Mage Knight. And I have to.
Yeah.
That's what I need to be doing with my time. Other things that I want to put back on the table, I really like Ashes Reborn, and I just enjoy like that.
I've got to play that at some point. I really do.
And I'm excited about a game that's coming in the mail because Dan Bullock's Penitent is starting to go out. And I remember I mentioned this morning that I was really excited about this game about making a Quaker prison. Is that one? So you basically you draw a prison on a piece of paper, and then you have to resolve cards about how are people doing in your prison, and did you do it right, and which philosophy of how to do prisons did you follow? Yeah, I'm excited.
That's wild.
This is what I do in my spare time.
I love it. It's a good use of the, again, like 2 minutes of spare time that you actually have nowadays.
Yeah. My trick is to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I work, and then I take a shower and eat breakfast, and I come to work, and then I go home and I do not work.
Yeah.
That's how I do it right now.
Yeah. I think that's a really good plan. You get your work out of the way.
Yeah.
And then you have time to do the fun stuff at night.
Yeah. I'm still not sleeping enough, but it's more than you think.
Yeah. It has been a absolute pleasure having you on. Finally, it's been way overdue. How can people get a hold of you on socials?
Fortunately, I'm nothing if not consistent, so I'm everywhere as Beyond Solitaire.
We love good SEO. I do not have that, but thank you again so much. Anything you want to shout out before we get out of here and have some stanky cheese?
I just think that everybody should eat some stinky cheese, maybe play a solo game. And if you're just listening to talk about gaming and not doing any gaming, you're missing out. So go play a game.
Go play a game right now. Go do it. Thanks, Liz.
Thanks for having me on, Arwen.
Well, I think that's going to do it for us today. If you want to know more about Cardboard Time, you can go to that website at cardboardtime.com. Our Instagram is at cardboard_time. The Blue Sky is at cardboardtime. The Discord is on the Tabletop Express server. You can always email me at cardboardtime@gmail.com or go to the website to get an invite. Always a good time on the Discord server, being a little bit more active there. And coming up, it's going to be top 20 time. Actually, I think that might be up as we talk right now. So go check that out on the Tabletop Express YouTube channel. And any questions, suggestions, or ideas for discussion topics, you can email cardboardtime@gmail.com and get those into me. For the LGBTQ plus community, things are definitely tough right now, but the world is absolutely better with you in it. And as always, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you around the table in 2 weeks for another episode of Cardboard Time.